Good afternoon, I'm Mrs. Levine, and this will be Algebra 1, and I am going to go over lesson 15 today. But first off, I want you to do my bell ringer. So we have 5 minus 7 plus 5 times 3. The other one is negative 5 plus negative 2 plus the absolute value of negative 5 minus 2. This here we have 7x plus 4y. The x is 2.1. The y is negative 0.7. So put those in the right places. And then on the fourth one, I want you to multiply those three fractions together, but cancel first, so that way it's already reduced when you're done. So you have about 3 minutes to get those done. Oh, I did say, without a calculator. So you got to do this with your own brains. Okay, should be able to have these done. So the answer that you got for that first one, remember that you have to do this part first to get 15. So 5 minus 7 plus 15. Remember the commutative property? You can go 5 plus 15 first, get 20, and then subtract 7, so that should be 13. On this one here, we've got a negative 5 and a negative 2. Those are being added together, so you could do that one and get a negative 7. Here we got a negative 5 minus 2 inside, that's a negative 7. But when you take an absolute value of it, it becomes a plus 7. And then, of course, that equals 0. On number 3, you needed to put 2.1 in place there and the negative 0.7 in that slot. Multiply 7 times the 2.1. Did you get 14.7? 4 times 7 is 28, but you do have one decimal place in there, so you had to subtract that. And then if you do 14 plus 7 minus 2.8, you have to borrow. So 17 minus 8 is 9, 3 minus 2 is 1, and 1, so you should get 11.9. When you go through and cancel on number 4 here, you know that 3 divides into 3, so you can cancel those. 4 goes into 8 2 times, and 4 goes into 4 once. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 2 once. So what do we have left? 1 times 1 times 1 on the top, and 1 times 5 times 1 on the bottom. So there's your final answer on that. So that's, you can do things without having to use the calculator. Now I'm going to erase the board so I can start over here. And I'll probably cut this part out. Okay, on lesson 15. Lesson 15 is on the distributive property. U-div. What that means is if you've got a number outside and we have 2 plus 1 inside, order of operations means that you could go and put 2 plus 1, and that would be 3. 5 times 3 is 15. But if we do the distributive property, we're going to take whatever's outside, you multiply it to the first one, and then you multiply the other. So you're thinking, thought process here, 5 times 2 plus 5 times 1. If you can do this in your head, that's good. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. Your answer is going to be 15. So you'll get 15 no matter which way you go. So practice with this one. What if I had 5 times 3 plus 9? Do that with the different steps. Take 5 times 3 and 5 times 9. What I'm looking for is 5 times 3 is 15, plus 5 times 9 is 45. Add them together and you get 60. So we're going through the different steps. You're doing one step at a time. But the distributive property is you're going to take whatever you have outside, times it by each individual term on the inside. Doesn't matter if the 5 is on this side or if it's on that side. You can rearrange it because, you know, that is the commutative property. So I've got 6 times 2 minus 7. What would be that answer? 6 times 2, right? That's 12. 6 times 7 is 42. Got to subtract those. So you're looking at 42 minus 12, which is 30. Because you're minusing the bigger number, it's going to be a negative 30. Now on this one, it doesn't matter going through if the 6 is on this side or that, because if we did it here, 2 minus 7 times 6, you're still looking at 6 times 2 and 6 times 7. You could do the commutative property and rewrite it that way if you like it in front first. If we had a negative in front of that, that just means, think of this as negative 1. So you're going to take a negative 1 times 2 and a negative 1 times 3. So that'd be negative 2 plus a negative 3, which gets to be a negative 5. So you could, this is probably the thought process, but on today with the distributive, I want you to write down each of the parts. Okay, now some problems for you to be practicing. I'm going to put down negative 20 times 12 plus 8 using the distributive. There's no one, negative 13 times 17 minus 12. Negative 5 times x plus 3. And 7 minus x, parentheses, and we're going to multiply it by 4. So you're going to go through and see if you can do the work on that part. Remember to take whatever is on the outside and multiply it to both of them on the inside. And yes, you can use the calculator when you're doing the 20 times 12 and the 20 times 8, if you don't know those in your head. And the 13 times 7 and the 13 times 12. The other ones you should be able to do. So you're looking for those two numbers before you can add them together. And remember, negative times negative would get you a positive. This one going backwards. Give you a few minutes to get those done. You could go through and do the Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. Okay, back to it here. I want you to let me know, say what the numbers are. If you've got a negative times a positive, there's going to be a negative number. What's 20 times 12? And if you didn't have a calculator, 2 times 12, is 24. And then there's a 0, so that's 240. 20 times 8, we have a negative again. 2 times 8 is 16, and you add a 0. So now what's negative 240 plus a negative 160? If you said negative 400, you are correct. Okay, this one, I don't know by heart either, so what is 13 times 17? And we do have a negative sign there. Should have got 221. And then the 13 times 12 is 156. But negative times negative makes this positive. Well, when you have one negative and one positive when you are adding them together? That means you got to take the 221 minus the 156. That's the thinking process. You should get 65. Because the 221 is the bigger number, the answer is going to be a negative 65. This one should be easy. Negative 5 times x, negative 5x. Negative 5 times 3, negative 15. We don't know what x is, so the answer is there. You stop at that time. 4 is on this side. 4 times 7 is 28, minus 4 times x is 4x. So you can have it with just numbers. You can have it with a variable. Now we're going to do some alphabet soup type things. So give me a moment and I can erase my board. You need to write down these two problems. mx plus 2ny plus z, all of that is going to be multiplied by mn. So that's the first one. On this one with the distributive property, you got to take this with the first one and find that answer. Then you got to do it with the second one. Then you do it with the third one. And this is where you have to use your knowledge about that when you multiply things with letters and the exponents, you have to add the exponents. So remember, this is going to be a 1, this is a 1. That's 1 and that's 1. All of those are to the first power. Because when you take m times m, 1 plus 1 is 2, so you have m squared. Well, we have only the n, so we've got to write that down. And we have the x. So there's that alphabet soup one there. Now you're going to take it times here. We have a 2, so we start with the 2. M times ny, we just have the m. N times n is n squared. And then we do have a y left. Now the mn times the z, they're all different. So that is mnz. Doesn't matter what order you have. A lot of times that they go through that, since it's the alphabet, you can rearrange this to go with the n, then the m, and then the x. But it doesn't matter which way you go. As long as you know that this is being multiplied together, and with commutative property of multiplication, it could be in any order. Okay, you're going to try this one. With the y's. Negative yz. You're going to multiply it to y3 minus zx3. This we could have written so it'd be on this side. Doesn't matter what side that it's on, you're still going to be multiplying it. You're still using the distributive property. So you're still going to multiply that with this one and with that. And you're going to have two terms. Since there are two terms here, your answer will have two terms. Negative means, if you think about it, there's negative 1 there. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Y times y to 3 is 1 plus 3 is 4. And then we have a z. Over here, negative times negative makes it a positive number. Y times, don't have any other ones, so we have to just write down the y. Z times z is, you have 2 of them. And then we have an x, 3. There's your final answer on that one. So it doesn't matter what order they are, as long as you have, but you got to know where those negative signs are. Because negative times negative makes that positive. And I just put a plus sign in between because you're going to have, with algebraic addition and subtraction, so you actually are adding them together. It just depends on what sign there is. Okay. That also works in landscaping or any other things. I'm going to draw this shape right here. I'm not sure if you've played tennis before. That would be my thing. If this is from here to here is 78. From here to here is 27. That would be a singles court going through so that they'd be playing back and forth. But with the doubles, that means each side is increased by 4.5 feet. So what would be the area of this tennis court thing for the doubles if you're using distributive property? So we know that 78 is what we're going to be multiplying by. What would be the numbers that you would put inside? If you want, you can put those two together, or we could have 4.5 plus 27 plus 4.5. I like to put those two together, it's a lot easier. What's 4.5 plus 4.5? That would be 9, then plus 27. So you could go through and find it this way. On your calculator, what is 78 times 9? And then 78 times 27. Or, if you want to do the order of operations, you could go 78 times 9 plus 27 is 36. You could do it either way. And hopefully, with your calculator, it says 2808. And since we got these were in feet, it would be feet squared. So you could break things down into parts. You don't have to use a calculator all the time, to do the whole problem. You can just do it with each of the small ends ones. So, got everything you need to know about the distributive property. So today's assignment is on page, let's see, we got 82 to 85. I want you to do A through I. Then we're going to just break it up a bit. 1 through 4, 6 through 10, then 12 and 13, 15, 18, 22, 23, 27, 29, and 30. This gives you 18 problems. Probably one of the smallest assignments that you'll be having. So you have the rest of the period to be doing these problems, and Mrs. Rasted, she does have the answers in that and how to do the processes. So she'll be walking around, and if you have a question, you can ask her, and she can look at how it would be set up. All right, and have a good weekend.